الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولقد مننا على موسى وهارون ونجيناهما وقومهما من الكرب العظيم ونصرناهم فكانوا هم الغالبين وآتيناهما الكتاب المستبين وهديناهما الصراط المستقيم وتركنا عليهما في الآخرين. سلام على موسى وهارون إنا كذلك نجزي المحسنين إنهما من عبادنا المخلصين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. ولقد ضل قبلهم أكثر الأولين ولقد أرسلنا فيهم منذرين فانظر كيف كان عاقبة المنذرين إلا عباد الله المخلصين. ولقد نادانا نوح فنعم المجيبون ونجيناه وأهله من الكرب العظيم وجعلنا ذريته هم الباقين وتركنا عليه في الآخرين. سلام على نوح في العالمين إنا كذلك نجزي المحسنين إنه من عبادنا المؤمنين ثم أورقنا الآخرين وإن من شيعته لإبراهيم إذ جاء ربه بقلب سليم إذ قال لأبيه وقومه ماذا تعبدون أئفكا آلهة دون الله تريدون فما ظنكم برب العالمين فنظر نظرة في النجوم فقال إني سقيم فتولوا عنه مدبرين فراغ إلى آلهتهم فقال ألا تأكلون ما لكم لا تنطقون فراغ عليهم ضربا باليمين فأقبلوا إليه يزفون قال أتعبدون ما تنحتون والله خلقكم وما تعملون قالوا ابنوا له بنيانا فألقوه في الجحيم فأرادوا به كيدا فجعلناهم الأسفلين فأرادوا به كيدا فجعلناهم الأسفلين وقال إني ذاهب إلى ربي سيهدين رب هب لي من الصالحين فبشرناه بغلام حليم فلما بلغ معه السعي قال يا بني إني أرى في المنام أني أذبحك فانظر ماذا ترى قال يا أبت افعل ما تؤمر ستجدني إن شاء الله من الصابرين إن شاء الله من الصابرين فلما أسلما وتله للجبين وناديناه أن يا إبراهيم قد صدقت الرؤيا إنا كذلك نجزي المحسنين إن هذا لهو البلاء المبين وفديناه بذبح عظيم وتركنا عليه في الآخرين سلام على إبراهيم كذلك نجزي المحسنين إنه من عبادنا المؤمنين وبشرناه بإسحاق نبيا من الصالحين وباركنا عليه وعلى إسحاق ومن ذريتهما محسن وظالم لنفسه مبين صدق الله العظيم. Bismillah. Bad voice? How's voice? Good voice? Static in the voice? Some static. Like I'm too close to the mic, okay? How's the voice now? Okay. How's the voice now? Good voice? Subhanallah.
Can you understand what I'm saying?
Or it's not. Okay, hold on a second. How's the voice now? Bismillah, Bismillah. Is it better? Okay. Now it's cutting, huh? Okay. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. له النعمة وله الفضل وله الثناء الحسن صلوات الله البر الرحيم والملائكة المقربين على سيدنا وحبيبنا وعظيمنا وقائدنا وقرة أعيننا محمد المصطفى المرتضى المجتبى وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تلا. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت يا حي يا قيوم تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. اللهم اجعل أعمالنا خالصة لوجهك الكريم. Lillahi ta'ala. Everyone have the good intentions and make sure you're sitting here for the sake of Allah. Tonight, inshallah, we'll continue going over the immediate knowledge and we'll finish whatever Allah will for us to finish tonight, inshallah, tabaraka wa ta'ala. We still didn't get out of the section related to apostasy, but perhaps we'll finish that tonight and then move on to whatever comes afterwards, inshallah. Actually, if you have any question, maybe we can take 5 minutes to answer any question before we start. Is there any question before we get started, inshallah? Okay, looks like there's no question. Alhamdulillah. It says, someone asks, is throwing mushaf on the table kufr? Knowing it's a mushaf, but not by mistake. It depends on how the throwing was. I might use the word tossing. If someone tossed a mushaf in a way that doesn't have istighfaf, doesn't have belittling in it, like or any religious papers, a person had some religious papers and threw them in a way, or tossed them gently if you want, in a way that does not belittle that. Yani, I don't here now have a camera on to show you an example of what I mean by that. It's not blasphemy. Like Prophet Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, he tossed some of the tablets of the Torah in a way that was not belittling, and he didn't toss them into a dirty place. So you're asking me by using the word throwing. You're asking me by using the word throwing. Throwing could possibly be too strong of a word for what's not kufr. It could possibly be too strong of a word for what's not kufr, possibly. Or if what's meant by throwing is tossing, say for example, tossing gently. I mean, to throw from the hand like a gentle toss in a way that's not belittling and not in a dirty place, it's not kufr. Ameen wa iyyakum. Where Prophet Musa tossed some of the tablets of the Torah or the tablets of the Torah without that being in a disrespectful manner and without throwing it into a dirty place. Any other question? Question, if the Quran, it says, if the Quran has the wrong interpretation of the verses, what do we do about it? Okay, I think you want to say your question in a different way. When you say the Quran, that means the revelation from Allah. So there's nothing in the revelation that's wrong. So perhaps you want to reword your question. The book which is revealed from Allah Ta'ala in Arabic is the Quran. It doesn't have any mistakes in it. Perhaps you mean if some person, okay, if the English translation has mistakes, then we warn the people from those mistakes. We tell them don't read those translations, they have mistakes in them. The Quran is in Arabic. The English translation is not the Quran. The Quran is in Arabic. The Quran is in Arabic and not in any other language. The Quran doesn't have a Quran on the has something on this. The Quran is in Arabic. The English translation is not the Quran. When we say Quran, Abdul Nasir, when we say Quran, Quran is in Arabic, number one. And when we say Quran, we mean the words that were revealed to the Prophet. In this context, we mean the words that were revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whether they were written or whether they were recited or whether they were heard. If I say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alif Lam Mim, that's Quran, even though it's not written. It's not written, but it's Quran. The Quran is in Arabic. Whether you're talking about written words, whether you're talking about recited words, whether you're talking about sounds that you hear, the recitation, that's in Arabic only. That's the Quran. Being between two covers doesn't make it a Quran itself. Abdul Nasir. Having a front cover and a back cover and pages, that in itself doesn't make it a Quran. Quran, which you're asking about, the Quran is the revealed expressions. The Quran is al-lafzul munazzal. The Quran in this context. Quran has more than one meaning. Here it means the revealed expressions. How do we encounter those revealed expressions, if you want? They might be written on a paper. They might be recited by the tongue. They might be heard by the ears. You might even say, for example, I memorized the Quran. So then what are you talking about? Something that you envision in your heart because you memorized it. That's still called Quran. The translation is a whole nother issue. So, you want to ask me, can we keep a translation that has misquestion? I know that's your question from the beginning, by the way, but I just want to help you out. Yes, you can keep the translation, but don't but warn from it. And if you don't have enough knowledge to protect yourself, don't read in it. I said Prophet Musa threw tablets of the Torah, not in a belittling manner and not in a dirty place. Question: what is the judgment for the one who takes Quran ayahs that you wear around your neck into the washroom? Not haram. Yani if it's wrapped, if it's concealed. If it's concealed in leather or in wax, then it's not haram to take it into the washroom. And it's not haram for people who don't have wudu to wear them. And it's not haram even for the menstruating and postpartum bleeding women to wear them and to go into the bathroom with them. Ameen wa fikum. Is there a way to search for older classes on the Wizik or WizIQ? I don't know. However, if you have Facebook and you know my Facebook page, which is Mental Possibility on Facebook, Mental Possibility, in my pictures, you'll find a picture that has a link to the classes that were converted to MP3, and it has most of the classes. I don't know if it's if the link's is being updated. I think the people who work on that link are in the room. I don't know if they're updating it or not. I haven't been here, but you can get most of the classes if you go there. Okay, one last question and then we want to get started, inshallah. It says, we know the signs of Allah's love for his slave are the signs of Allah's hatred towards his slave. Okay, firstly, let's just clarify that these words, love and hatred, if they're attributed to Allah, if it's valid to attribute them to Allah, should not be taken to refer to emotions. If it's valid to attribute these words to Allah, they should not be understood to refer to emotions. Because the one who believes that Allah has emotions and feelings has likened Allah to the creation. And the one who likens Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala to the creation blasphemes, commits kufr and shirk, and goes out of Islam if he was a Muslim. If when a person says the love of Allah, he means that Allah accepts a slave, it is that Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala grants that slave a high status without an obligation to do so. And if Allah gave the slave a high status, Allah would inflict that slave with hardships and calamities. And if Allah willed for a slave to have low status, Allah may prevent that slave from having hardships and calamities. But this does not mean that because a person got a hardship that Allah accepts the person, and that because a person got an ease that Allah Ta'ala does not accept him. Let's get started, insha'Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. We were talking about apostasy, which is a person going out of Islam, and we'll start from the fa'idah, from the benefit that we started to mention last time, and continue from there. فقال المؤلف رحمه الله فائدة. The author, may Allah have mercy upon him, said, benefit. قال ابن جزي في القوانين الفقهية. Ibn Juzay said in al-Qawanin al-Fiqhiyah, لا خلاف في تكفير من نفى الربوبية أو الوحدانية. There's no difference in opinion about charging with blasphemy anyone who denies the lordship of Allah or the oneness of Allah, أو عبد مع الله غيره, or the one who worships with Allah someone other than him, أو كان على دين اليهود أو النصارى, or he was on the religion of the Jews or the Christians, yani he's a kafir, أو المجوس أو الصابئين, or he was on the religion of the Majus or the religion of the Sabi'ah, which those are Abadatul Kawkab or al-Kawakib, those are star worshippers. As-Sabi'in here refers to star worshippers, people who worship stars. Or they might worship particular stars. So here, brothers and sisters, some people might bring you an ayah from the Quran or different ayat that they misinterpreted. And they think that from these ayahs that Islam is not the only valid religion. Immediately you can give the person the ayah from Surah Al-Imran, وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِ غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ. Whoever chooses a religion other than Islam for himself, it will not be accepted from him. It's very explicit. وَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. And in the hereafter he will be among the losers. This is explicit. This explicitly shows that anyone who chooses a religion other than Islam is a kafir. And so it must be that that person who's bringing you an ayah from the Quran to say that there's a religion that's accepted other than Islam, that a person could be a Jew or a Christian and his religion is accepted, he must be misunderstanding. Also, Allah says in His book, فَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ, or وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. It means, do not die unless you are Muslims. Do not die unless you are Muslims. Why? This is very clear. What's the point of the ayah then if other religions other than Islam are valid? Why does Allah threaten you? And He says, وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. Don't die unless you are Muslims. So, it's not true that you can be any religion you want, or that there is any ayah in the Quran that proves that you can have another religion. أو قال بالحلول. Also, there's no difference in opinion about the one who believes in al-hulul, which is believing that Allah dwells in the slaves. أو التناسخ, or reincarnation. Believing in reincarnation, and reincarnation is not resurrection. Resurrection is one thing, reincarnation is something else. Resurrection is for the bodies that decay to be reconstructed, and then for the souls to go back into their bodies. If the body didn't decay, the soul will go back into the body without the body being reconstructed. If the body decayed, the soul will go into the body will be reconstructed, and then the soul will go back into the body, and then the people become alive again after their bodies are reconstructed and their souls join with their bodies. That's ba'ath. That's resurrection. That's not reincarnation. Reincarnation is when the person believes that a person dies, and then, for example, he was a human being, he died, and then his soul, after he dies, will go and be inside of a horse body, for example. So now he's a horse after he was a human, and then when he dies as a horse, his soul may go and be inside a butterfly, for example, or a caterpillar that turns into a butterfly. And then after he dies, his soul will go and be inside of a dog. And then after he dies, his soul will go and be inside of a dog. Then after he dies, his soul will go and be inside of a giraffe, or whatever. That's reincarnation. It's kufr. أو اعتقد أن الله غير حي, or if a person believes that Allah is not alive, أو غير عليم, or that He is not knowledgeable of everything, أو نفى عنه صفة من صفاته, or he denies any of the attributes of Allah. أي من الصفات 13 التي تقدم ذكرها, meaning the 13 attributes that were previously mentioned. أو قال صنع العالم غيره. Or he says that someone other than Allah created the world. أو قال هو متولد من شيء. Or he believes that Allah Ta'ala came from something. أو ادعى مجالسة الله حقيقة. Or he claimed that he sat with Allah, had a session with Allah, for example. أو قال and there were people يعني كان هناك فيما مضى من ادعى هذا. In past times there were people who claimed منهم من ادعى أنه صعد إلى السماء فلقي الله فمسح الله على رأسه. Among them are those who claim that they were raised up to the sky and they met Allah and Allah wiped on his head. He claimed that he was raised up to the sky and met Allah and Allah wiped on his head. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ وَهُنَاكَ مَنِ ادَّعَى غَيْرَ هَذَا. And among them are people who claim other than that. أو قال بقدم العالم. Or he claimed that the world is eternal. أو شك في ذلك كله. Or he doubted about all of that. أو قال بنبوة أحد بعد سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. Or he doubted about or he claimed prophethood for anyone after our Master Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم. ولا نعني بهذا عيسى عليه الصلاة والسلام. And we don't refer to Jesus by this. لأن عيسى عليه الصلاة والسلام ينزل فيكون على الأرض بعد موت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Because Jesus will descend and he will be on the earth after the death of Prophet Muhammad, the messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم. وهو نبي رسول. And Jesus is a prophet and a messenger. لكنه أوحي إليه من قبل محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. However, he got the revelation before Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم. فكان نبيا قبله. And so he was a prophet before Muhammad. ونحن لا نتكلم في ذلك. And we are not talking about that. الآن نحن نتكلم في الذي يعتقد أنه يوحى إلى إنسان بعد نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم فيكون نبيا بعد نبينا صلى الله عليه وسلم. Now we're talking about someone who believes that someone would receive the revelation after our Master Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam and be a prophet after Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wasallam. أو جوز الكذب على الأنبياء عليهم الصلاة والسلام. Or he deemed it valid that any of the prophets would lie. عليهم الصلاة والسلام. That's blasphemy, kufr, apostasy. أو قال بتخصيص الرسالة بالعرب أي ادعى أنه عليه الصلاة والسلام مرسل إلى العرب فقط. Or if one claims that the message of Muhammad is specific to the Arabs, صلى الله عليه وسلم. أو ادعى أنه يوحى إليه أو ادعى أنه يوحى إليه, or if one claims that he receives revelation, that's blasphemy. أو يدخل الجنة في الدنيا حقيقة, or someone claims that he enters paradise in lifetime, in reality, that he goes and enters into paradise, blasphemy. أو كفر جميع الصحابة, or he charges all of the companions with kufr, that's blasphemy also. أو جحد شيئا مما يعلم من الدين ضرورة, or he with knowledge denies something that is known from the religion by necessity. أو سعى إلى الكنائس بزي النصارى, or he goes to church while wearing the uniform of the Christian. أو قال بسقوط العبادة على بعض الأولياء, or he says that some of the awliya are no longer obligated to worship Allah. That, for example, they don't have to pray anymore, for example. All of that is kufr, blasphemy. It will take the person out of Islam. أو جحد حرفا فأكثر من القرآن, or with knowledge denying a letter or more of the Quran. أو زاده أي عنادا أي مع معرفته أنه ليس منه, or if he adds a letter to the Quran, meaning stubbornly, that is, while he knows that it's not from the Quran. أو غيره أي عنادا, or he altered the Quran out of stubbornness. أو قال القرآن ليس بمعجز, or he says the Quran is not miraculous. أو قال الثواب والعقاب معنويان, or if he says that the reward and punishment are only figurative and not real, not physical. أو قال الأئمة أفضل من الأنبياء, or he says that the imams are better than the prophets. All of that is blasphemy. Intaha. End quote. When I said all of that is blasphemy, that's not part of the text. ولا فرق في الحكم بالردة على متلفظ هذه الألفاظ على متلفظ هذه الألفاظ المتقدمة بين أن يقولها في حال الرضا أو في حال السخط. And the judgment of apostasy does not vary when it comes to the one who says these expressions, these aforementioned expressions, whether he said them while accepting them or he said them while he doesn't accept them, like he's angry, for example, only. فإنه يجب تعظيم الله عز وجل ورسله وملائكته وشريعته في الحالين, because it is obligatory to exalt Allah Azza wa Jal and His prophets and His angels and His law in both cases. ولا فرق كذلك بين أن يقصد بقولها الخروج من الإسلام, and also there is no difference between saying the word of blasphemy and intending to go out of Islam, أو لا يقصد ذلك, or if he says the word of blasphemy without intending to go out of Islam, طالما هو يعرف معناها, as long as he knows the meaning of what he's saying. ولو جهل ما تؤدي إليه فإن أحدا لم يشترط علم الكافر بأنه كافر. No one, no scholar, no previous scholar said that the condition for a person to be a kafir is that he knows he's a kafir. لم يشترط علم الكافر بأنه كافر ولا قصده أن يكون كافرا ليحكم بكفره. So no one said that knowing that one is a kafir or intending to be a kafir is a condition for the person to be a kafir or to charge him with blasphemy. كما دل على ذلك قول الله تعالى في سورة الكهف. Like what Allah said in Surah Al-Kahf, قل هل ننبئكم بالأخسرين أعمالا الذين ضل سعيهم في الحياة الدنيا وهم يحسبون أنهم يحسنون صنعا. Which means, O Muhammad, say, should we inform you about those people whose deeds are worthless? Those whom their striving in this worldly life was in vain, while they thought that they are doing something good. وكما يشير إليه قوله عز وجل في سورة التوبة, and like what Allah signaled to in Surah At-Tawbah, وَلَئِن سَأَلْتَهُمْ لَيَقُولُنَّ إِنَّمَا كُنَّا نَخُوضُ وَنَلْعَبُ قُلْ أَبِاللَّهِ وَآيَاتِهِ وَرَسُولِهِ كنتم تستهزئون لا تعتذروا قد كفرتم بعد إيمانكم. Which means, if you were to ask them, O Muhammad, they would say, surely they would say, we were only engaging ourselves and playing. O Muhammad, say, do you belittle Allah and His verses and His messenger? Don't make excuses. You have blasphemed after your Iman. قَدْ كَفَرْتُمْ بَعْدَ إِيمَانِكُمْ. أي قد حكم عليكم بالكفر بمجرد أنكم استهزأتم. Meaning, you have been charged with blasphemy by your mere belittlement, by your mere act of belittling. And that's not part of the book. That's clarification of the meaning of the ayah. استهزأتم استهزأتم أيوة no, except the hamza is written on an alif, not on the nabrah. Question: are the Shia considered blasphemers, or some of them assault rightly guided caliphs such as Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, even though they don't curse all of the companions? La. No, they're not. Some factions of the Shiites are blasphemers, but we don't say just generally the Shiites are kuffar. La. استهزأتم آمين وفيكم. لأنه لو كانت الهمزة على النبرة هنا لقرئ استهزئتم، هذا استهزأتم، فتكون الهمزة على ألف. قال طيب هل من سؤال؟ هل من سؤال هنا؟ Any question? طيب كأنه لا يوجد سؤال, as if there's no question. لنكمل إن شاء الله. لنكمل إن شاء الله. Let us continue. قال المؤلف رحمه الله فصل. The author, may Allah have mercy upon him, said, section, chapter, يجب على من وقعت منه ردة العود فورا إلى الإسلام. It is obligatory on whomever apostasy occurred from to immediately return to Islam. بالإقلاع عن سببها, by refraining from or ceasing whatever was the reason for that apostasy. أي بترك سبب الردة, by abandoning whatever caused the apostasy. فلو كانت ردته بالدوس على المصحف مثلا, and so had his apostasy been because of stepping on the mushaf, for example, لم يصح رجوعه إلى الإسلام, مهما تشهد إذا كان لا يزال دائسا عليه. Then his return to Islam would not be valid no matter how much he said the Shahada, as long as he's still stepping on the Quran. He needs to stop stepping on it. ويلزمه أيضا للرجوع إلى الإسلام نطق بالشهادتين. And he's also obligated, in order to return to Islam, to utter the two shahadas. أو بما يعطي معناهما بالعربية أو بغيرها. Or whatever gives their meaning, whether in Arabic or other than Arabic. أو بغيرها من اللغات, or in something other than the Arabic language. فإن لم يرجع إلى الإسلام بما ذكرنا, if he doesn't come back to Islam by what we have mentioned, by the way that we have mentioned, وجبت استتابته. It is obligatory on the ruler to order him to repent. بأن يعرض عليه الحاكم الرجوع إلى الإسلام. That is, for the ruler to offer that person coming back to Islam. فإن أبى قتله وجوبا. And if he refuses, then he will execute him. It will be obligatory for him to execute him. ويجب على من وقعت منه الردة الندم على ما صدر منه والعزم على ألا يعود لمثله. And it is also obligatory on whoever fell into apostasy to regret what happened to him and to be determined to never return to something similar to it. Any question? Any question about that one who comes to Islam? هل من سؤال؟ طيب وينبغي أن يعلم هنا أن الندم ليس شرطا للرجوع إلى الإسلام. It should be known here that regret is not a condition for the person to come back to Islam. لأنه قد لا يخطر بباله أن يندم. Because it could be that the regret didn't cross his mind. إنما هو عرف أنه كفر فيريد أن يتشهد ليدخل في الإسلام ولم يندم إلا بعد ذلك. Because it could be that he wants to come back to Islam and then it didn't occur to him to regret until after he said the Shahada. ثم يندم يقول سبحان الله كيف فعلت هذا. Then after that he would regret. He would say, Subhanallah, how could I have done such a thing? فَإِن لَمْ يَنْدَمْ قَبْلَ تَشَهُدِهِ صَحَّ إِسْلَامُهُ. If the person did not regret before his saying the Shahada, his Islam is valid. وَيَجِبُ عَلَيْهِ أَنْ يَنْدَمْ. And it's obligatory on him to regret. لكن هذا الندم ليس شرطا لصحة رجوعه إلى الإسلام. However, this regret is not a condition for the validity of him coming back to Islam. وهذا قد لا يعلم ذلك كثير من إخواننا. It could be that many of our brothers and sisters don't know this judgment properly. لذلك الشيخ يقول الآن لا أستحضر العبارة حرفيا يقول بعد أن يذكر كيف يسلم من جديد يقول بعد كل ذلك ثم يجب عليه أن يندم. يعني معناه أنه واجب لكن ليس شرطا لصحة رجوعه إلى الإسلام. The Sheikh mentions in the summary of obligatory knowledge, after talking about how the person comes back to Islam, he says, and then furthermore, it's obligatory on the person to regret. فإذا سمعتم رجلا أو إنسانا يقول هذا الندم شرط لصحة رجوعه إلى الإسلام فعلموه. If you heard about a person saying that the regret is the condition for the person to come back to Islam, then teach him. ليس هكذا. That's not the case. وماذا قال الشيخ هنا شيخ سمير؟ يعني قال يجب على من وقعت منه ردة فورا إلى الإسلام بالإقلاع عن سببها، أي بترك سبب الردة، فلو كانت ردته بالدوس على المصحف مثلا لم يصح رجوعه إلى الإسلام مهما تشاهد إذا كان لا يزال دائسا عليه، ويلزمه أيضا للرجوع إلى الإسلام نطق بشهادتين أو بما يعطي معناهما بالعربية أو بغيرها من اللغات، فإن لم يرجع إلى الإسلام بما ذكرنا وجبت استتابته. ثم ويجب على من وقعت منه الردة الندم. هذا هو عبر هكذا لأنه ليس شرطا لصحة رجوعه. He says, after talking about how the person comes back to Islam, he says, and it's obligatory on the person to regret. Why he's saying it like that? Because that's not the condition for him coming back to Islam. Rather, it's an additional obligation. إنه فرض زائد على ما يفعله ليدخل في الإسلام. فهل من سؤال? Is there any question here? طيب. Question, so one must have a feeling of regret to come back to Islam or no after committing blasphemy? The person does not have to have the feeling of regret for the validity of his coming back to Islam. But he is obligated to regret. It's not a condition for the validity of him coming back to Islam. Not having a feeling of regret does not mean he's happy with what he did. Not having the feeling of regret does not mean that he's happy with what he did. عفوا أي إن كان مسرورا بما فعل يكفر. If he's happy with the blasphemy he did, he blasphemes. لا نتكلم في هذا. We're not talking about that. إنما نقول, what we're saying here is إنه قد ارتد رجل, a person, a man, for example, apostatized. ثم انتبه, then he realized what he did. فلم يرد أن يؤخر نفسه, and he didn't want to delay himself. فتشهد فورا, so he said the shahada immediately. ولم يخطر بباله أن يندم, and it never occurred to him to regret. يعني هذه شعور لم تخطر بقلبه, يعني he didn't feel this feeling. إنما أراد أن يدخل في الإسلام, ما أراد أن يؤخر نفسه. He wanted to come back to Islam, he didn't want to delay himself. فما فكر في هذا, so he didn't even think about it, for example. صح إسلامه وإن لم يندم. His Islam is valid even if he did not commit, even if he did not regret. ولكنه يجب عليه أن يندم, but it is obligatory on him to regret. مفهوم? Is it understood? نعم. أنا أتذكر عندما علمنا هذا الشيخ سمير. I remember when Sheikh Samir taught us this. يعني بالنسبة لي ولكثير من الناس كان أول مرة سمعوا هكذا. At the time, for me and for many people, it was the first time they heard that. فقال لا يجب للرجوع, لا ليس شرطا لصحة رجوعه إلى الإسلام أن يندم. He said it wasn't a condition for the person to come back to Islam for him to regret. كلنا ظن أن شيخ سمير كفر. يعني خفنا, نحن ننظر إلى بعضنا, هو على طاولة يتكلم. We were all looking at each other. He's at the table talking. ونحن ننظر إلى بعضنا, ما هذا, كأنه كفر أمامنا. We're all looking at each other like, what? As if he blasphemed. كيف يقول لا يجب عليه أن يندم. يعني ليس شرطا, ليس ما قال لا يجب, ليس شرطا لصحة رجوعه. لكن هو بين, شرح. Then he explained, يعني فاسترحنا, then we felt better. ما شاء الله. هكذا الحكم. بفضل الله تعالى علمنا هذا, أنه ليس شرطا لصحة رجوعه الندم, لكن هذا الندم واجب. It is not a condition for the validity of his coming back to Islam that he regrets. However, this regret is obligatory. Now, question, that means he would be sinful by not regretting, correct? That's correct. لأنه واجب. ومن ترك واجبا يكون آثما. Yes, because it's wajib. Whoever leaves out an obligation is sinful. إلا إذا كان له عذر, unless he has an excuse. آمين وفيكم. طيب نكمل. Let's continue. قال فصل, the author said, chapter or section. ويبطل بالردة الصوم. Fasting is invalidated by apostasy. ويجب عليه الرجوع فورا إلى الإسلام والإمساك باقي النهار. And it is obligatory on him to come back to Islam immediately and to refrain from eating for the rest of the daytime. Or to refrain from whatever fasting person refrains from for the rest of the daytime. وقضاء هذا اليوم فورا بعد العيد. Excuse me. And then to make up this day immediately after the Eid. وينبه. There is a notice, and one should be aware of something. ألسنا تعلمنا أن الذي ارتد أثناء صيامه يجب عليه أن يسلم وأن يمسك باقي النهار بلى. And didn't we learn that the one who commits apostasy in the middle of the fasting day, that it's obligatory on him to come back to Islam immediately and to refrain from whatever a fasting person refrains from for the rest of the day. هذا في رمضان. This is in Ramadan. ليس خارج رمضان. It's not outside of Ramadan. أريد بذلك أن الإنسان إذا كان يصوم صوما واجبا. What I mean is that if a person was doing an obligatory fast, لكنه خارج شهر رمضان, however, it fell outside of the month of Ramadan. ليس في شهر رمضان, not during the month of Ramadan. يصوم صوما واجبا, he's fasting an obligatory fast, لكنه خارج رمضان. However, it's outside of Ramadan. ثم ارتد, then he committed apostasy. ثم رجع, then he came back to Islam. هل يجب عليه الإمساك إلى الغروب؟ لا يجب عليه الإمساك إلى الغروب. Is it obligatory on him to continue fasting until the end of the day? No, it's not obligatory on him to continue fasting until the end of the day. لماذا؟ لأنه ليس في رمضان. Why? Because he's not in the month of Ramadan. والذي أفطر لماذا؟ أين الفرق؟ الفرق أن الذي ارتد في رمضان يجب عليه أن يراعي حرمة الوقت. He's obligated to observe the honor of the time. هذا رمضان. هذا الوقت له حرمة. It's Ramadan. That time has a special status. The daytime in Ramadan has a special status. النهار في شهر رمضان له ميزة. The daytime during Ramadan has a special status. فإذا كفر يعني إذا ارتد ثم رجع. So if the person committed apostasy يعني في Ramadan, in Ramadan, then he came back, يجب عليه الإمساك باقي النهار. It's obligatory on him to refrain for the rest of the daytime. لحرمة الوقت, because of honoring the time. He must honor that time. أما إذا كان يصوم صوما واجبا خارج رمضان. However, in case the person is fasting an obligatory fast outside of the month of Ramadan, لم أقل ليس من رمضان ليس قضاء قلت شيئا من هذا. خُذُوا قَوْلِي كَمَا أَنَا أَقُولُهُ. I didn't say he's not making up a day of Ramadan. I said خارج رمضان يصوم صوما فرضا خارج شهر رمضان. A person is fasting an obligatory fasting outside of the month of Ramadan. ثم ارتد. Then he committed apostasy. ثم رجع. Then he came back. لا يجب عليه الإمساك باقي النهار. It's not obligatory on him to refrain for the rest of the day. مفهوم هذا؟ Is it understood? طيب. حتى إنه يعني هناك ما يشبه ذلك. There's something that's similar to that. الذي مثلا لا يستطيع أن يجد القبلة. ماذا يفعل? The one who cannot determine his qibla. What does he do? أو الذي لا يجد ماء للطهارة ولا ترابا. Or the one who doesn't find water nor soil for his prayer. ماذا يفعل? يصلي. He prays anyway. لماذا؟ Why? لحرمة الوقت. Out of honoring the time. حتى لا يمضي هذا الوقت كله بدون الصلاة. So that this entire time won't go without any prayer. هذا لحرمة الوقت. كذلك الذي ارتد في رمضان ورجع يجب عليه الإمساك باقي النهار. Likewise, the one who apostatizes in Ramadan, he has to, and then he comes back to Islam, he has to refrain from things for the rest of the daytime. Why? لِحُرْمَةِ الْوَقْتِ. Because he has to honor the time. وقضاء هذا اليوم فورا بعد العيد. And he has to make up that day after the Eid immediately. Can I repeat what? Which part do you want me to repeat? Okay, I guess you don't want me to repeat it anymore. We have to continue to fast all day if one commits blasphemy. إذا كان في رمضان, if the person is in the month of Ramadan. Nah. يقول ويبطل بها أيضا التيمم. Also, tayammum is invalidated by apostasy. بخلاف الوضوء, which is different from wudu. It's not invalidated by apostasy. والنكاح قبل الدخول, and also the marriage contract before consummation. If a person commits apostasy before consummating with his wife, then his marriage contract is broken, completely severed. أي ويبطل عقد النكاح بين الزوجين إذا ارتد أحدهما قبل بناء الزوج بالزوجة أي دخوله بها, which is what I just now explained. وكذا يبطل عقد النكاح بالردة بعده. Likewise, the marriage contract is invalidated by apostasy, even if that happened after the consummation. أي بعد الدخول إن حصلت الردة من أحد الزوجين. This is what will happen if that apostasy occurred from either one of the spouses. ولم يعد الذي ارتد منهما إلى الإسلام في العدة. So the marriage contract is invalidated even after the consummation if the one who apostatized doesn't come back to Islam during the id period of the woman. أي قبل انتهائها. فإذا ارتد الزوج أو امرأته بعد الدخول صار نكاحهما موقوفا. So if one of the spouses commits apostasy, then their marriage is suspended. Yani if that apostasy happened after the consummation. Yani, two people, a man and a woman, consummated their marriage and then one of them committed apostasy. Nikahuhuma mawkuf. Their marriage is suspended. ولا يحل لهما الجماع والاستمتاع I wanted to check something here in the harakat. فإذا رجع الذي ارتد منهما إلى الإسلام قبل مضي العدة تبين أن العقد ما زال قائما. So if the person comes back to Islam before the iddah is over, then it becomes clear that their marriage contract never ceased to be valid. أما إن كان لم يرجع إلى الإسلام إلا بعد انتهاء العدة. However, in case that the person did not come back to Islam except after the iddah, تبين أن العقد ما زال قائما بينهم. Then it will be clear that their marriage contract never ceased to be valid. وأما إن لم يرجع إلى الإسلام إلا بعد انتهاء العدة. But in the case the person did not come back to Islam except after the passage of the iddah, عندئذ, at that time, أن العقد فيتبين عندئذ أن العقد بينهما قد انفسخ من حين الردة. Then, if, in this case, it would be clear that the contract was broken since the time the person committed apostasy. يعني أنا أشرح لكم. Let me explain for you. If a person married a woman and did not consummate the marriage, إذا تزوج رجل امرأة ولم يدخل بها ثم كفر أحدهما انفسخ نكاحهما. If one of them committed apostasy and the marriage was not consummated, the marriage contract is broken. Period. It's done. أما إن كان له يعني إن كان قد دخل بها. However, in the case the person did come back to Islam. أما إن كان الإنسان رجع إلى الإسلام قبل مضي العدة. In the case the person came back to Islam before the iddah is over, يعني عندما يرتد إذا دخل بها, if he consummated the marriage, وارتد وأحدهما, and then one of them committed apostasy, ثم هنا النكاح موقوف. Here, at this point, the marriage contract is suspended. فإن رجع إلى الإسلام قبل مضي العدة تبين أن العقد ما زال صحيحا وإلا فلا. If he comes back to Islam before the cycle is done, before the iddah is over, then it becomes clear that they were always married. Their marriage was never severed, was never invalidated. ولا يصح عقد نكاحه أي المرتد لا على مسلمة ولا على غيرها. It is not valid for this apostate to marry a Muslim woman nor a Kafir woman. وتحرم ذبيحته, and the meat that he slaughters is forbidden. أي لا يجوز أكلها, meaning it's not permissible to eat it. ولو ذبح كما يذبح المسلمون, even if he slaughters the way Muslims slaughter. ولا يرث من يموت من أقاربه المسلمين, and he does not inherit from any of his Muslim relatives who died. ولا يورث, and he does not receive inheritance. أي لا يرثه قريبه المسلمون إذا كان مرتدا بل يكون ماله فيئا. So the apostate, he doesn't inherit and he's not inherited from. So his Muslim relatives, if he dies, if that person dies as an apostate, they do not get any of his money. بل يكون ماله فيئا. Rather, his money would be in the Muslim treasury. يصرف في مصاريفه التي عينها الشرع. And it will be spent in the way that the person who is religiously recognized sees to spend it. ولا يجوز أن يصلى عليه. It is not permissible to pray for the dead kafir. عندئذ ولا أن يطلب الرحمة أو المغفرة. It is not valid to pray for the dead kafir, nor to seek for him to have peace or for forgiveness after his death. لأن هذا تكذيب كتاب الله, because this is belying the book of Allah. ولا يجوز أن يدفن في مقابر المسلمين. And he was buried exactly where they prepared him for burial. Let me read that one more time. قال ولا يجوز أن يصلى عليه عندئذ. It is not permissible for him to pray for the dead kafir. ولا أن تطلب and so ولا يجوز أن يصلى عليه حينئذ. It is not permissible for him to be prayed for if he's a dead kafir, a dead blasphemer. ولا أن تطلب له الرحمة أو المغفرة. And nor does the person have the right to ask on behalf of that dead kafir mercy or forgiveness. لأن هذا عالم علامة عفوا لأن هذا تكذيب لكتاب الله, because this is belying the book of Allah, this is contradicting the book of Allah. ولا يجوز أن يدفن في مقابر المسلمين, and it is not permissible to bury such a person in the Muslim cemetery. لأنه ليس منهم, because he's not a Muslim. والله تبارك وتعالى أعلم, and Allah knows best. We'll stop there. درس قصير, short class today. لكنني يعني تعبت قليلا, but I'm a little tired. So فأقف هنا وأنهينا. إن شاء الله تعالى في الأسبوع القادم نبدأ بباب الطهارة. In the next week we'll start with the chapter of purification. آمين وإياكم. من له سؤال فليتفضل. Whoever has a question, then let him ask. Question from the quote of Ibn Juzay. Did you say he claims that he will enter paradise in this world in reality? Yes. طيب. The saying RIP to a kafir consider asking for peace. Doesn't RIP mean rest in peace? طيب أين السؤال? Where's the question? Which part يعني? That's what does it mean? What does it mean? What does RIP mean? It means rest in peace. أين السؤال يعني أين السؤال؟ نحن الآن قلنا. Where's the question? We just said أنه ولا يجوز أن يصلى عليه عندئذ ولا أن تطلب له الرحمة أو المغفرة لأن هذا تكذيب لكتاب الله. It's not permissible to pray for the dead kafir, nor to seek mercy or forgiveness for him because that would be belying the book of Allah. Now, هكذا RIP for a dead kafir is kufr. Saying RIP for a dead kafir is kufr. هذا دعاء له يعني قصد به دعاء. There's the people intend a supplication behind that. نعم بارك الله فيكم. هل من سؤال آخر؟ The word kufr and kafir always confuses me. Kafir is the one who does kufr. Kufr is blasphemy, kafir is blasphemer. Question: if an apostate does not return to Islam before the end of the iddah, is the other person sinful for having intercourse if they don't know about the apostasy? Kayfa yakun? How would the other person be sinful? He doesn't know about it. Everything's normal to that person. He never knew that person committed apostasy. Nah. طيب يا إخوان وأخوات، راجعوا هذا الدرس. Review this lesson. فإن كان لكم سؤال في الأسبوع القادم, if you have a question about this for next week, يعني إن شاء الله عندما نبدأ بالأسئلة. When we start, we'll start with the questions. Is this lesson on Tuesday nights only? Yeah, there's a lesson on Thursday nights on the obligatory knowledge. والآن خطر ببالي أن أكمل هذا الكتاب يوم الخميس. It crossed my mind to go over this book on Thursday too. أفكر فيه. I'll think about it. Good idea? نعم إن شاء الله تعالى. طيب, looks like a lot of people agree. طيب, then good chance then on Thursday we'll just continue until we finish the book. There will be fiqh sections in this book also. نعم يوجد. Same time, 9 o'clock, نعم. 9 o'clock p.m. EST إن شاء الله. وآتي بالقهوة. And then I'll have coffee too. إن شاء الله. طيب, نقف هنا. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. بارك الله فيكم.